to forget you are a human being. I'm here to tell you that what you know about being human, that you need to throw that out, that you need to start over. I love these speeches coming up to this because I feel like they all kind of have this common theme, okay? So, a lot of people say, I don't want to be a number, don't define me by a number, we got all these numbers we have to remember, what's your phone number, your social security number, your IP address, okay? I'm here to tell you that you are a number, and that is that number right there on my screen. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, okay? Our story tonight starts with this guy, Leonardo of Pisa. You may have heard of him. His dad's name was Bonacci. They called him son of Bonacci or Fibonacci, okay? He wrote a book on math. And that book was called the Liber Abaci, okay? And in that book, he proposed this problem for his students. He was kind of messing with them, and he said, if you started with one pair of rabbits, how many pairs of rabbits would you have by the end of a year? And the answer was 144, in the way that they multiply, that it takes a month for them to sexually mature, and then they have a pair of rabbits, and then that month, another pair of rabbits, and so on, okay? The numbers of the rabbits add up like this, and each number in this series is the sum of the two previous numbers before. You may recognize this. It's called the Fibonacci sequence. Okay, some very interesting properties of this. I love this stuff. Okay, if you take any two numbers of the Fibonacci sequence and compare them to each other, there is this ratio. A plus B is to A as A is to B, and that ratio continues on and on and on to the entire series, okay? I'll take a breath for a second. Okay, if you take any of those two numbers and divide one of the numbers by the adjacent number, you get this very interesting number, the number that we saw before, 0.618 and so on, okay? If you divide it up, you get 0.618. If you divide it down, you get 1.6. This has been called the most beautiful number. If you take any of those ratios, you can make a rectangle out of it that people like to call the golden rectangle, and it contains the ratio of that, the 1 to the 1.618. It's very interesting. If you cut that rectangle into squares, it actually equals the exact numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. If you look at things that humans have built, we tend to use these numbers over and over again, like the Parthenon in Greece, like the works of Mondrian. The Great Pyramids in Egypt use this exact ratio. How did they know that? If you take that exact set of squares and draw an arc into all of them there, you end up with this beautiful logarithmic spiral. This spiral just happens to occur over and over and over again in the universe. It's kind of bizarre. Here is a short list of all of the places where this spiral occurs. Okay, the nautilus shell is the most common example here. One of my favorites are sunflowers, daisies. All kinds of flowers always tend to have the exact number of petals of one of the numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. Okay, so everything about us, everything about the world that we live in, the universe that we live in, are these patterns. What is this a picture of, do you think? Is it a tree on a hill? Is it a scan of somebody's lung? It's actually a river delta here in North America. Okay, so the behavior of nature is governed by these mathematics. We see all these kinds of things, spirals, sequences, compression waves, the ideas of attraction and repulsion in the natural world around us, all of these patterns that are occurring all over the place. Okay, so this ratio, this number 5, this beautiful number, speaks to the characteristics of growth and the way things are limited by the amount of energy that they have. Okay, and this branching, this can affect ideas of sustainability, efficiency. Okay, and do humans, are we affected by this? Well, it just so happens that the idea of the golden rectangle and the Fibonacci spiral is affected by things like our teeth, our eyes, the way our lungs branch, the ratio of our joints and our fingers and so on. And we do have this tendency to create patterns in our world around us, in our construction, in our lives. So, what does that say about the way that we live our lives? What does that say about the way that our society functions? Okay, do these patterns reflect what we do in our personal lives? Well, it's interesting to note that your body is made out of these Fibonacci numbers, okay? Think of it this way. Are you a thing or are you a pattern? Your body is actually renewing itself, okay? Every 7 years they say that you're actually made out of completely different material than you were 7 years previous. So are you really a thing, or are you more like a pattern? And do you have control over that? Can you influence that? Or are you just kind of operating by this programming? This is a picture of my son. When I look at my children, I see this beautiful potential, and I see the fact that they are programmed by this biology, by these sets of numbers. And I feel a lot of compassion for them. And I feel like we should extend that compassion to ourselves and to each other, because we might not really be what we think a human being is supposed to be. We might be actually this set of numbers, these beautiful numbers. Thank you very much. Good night.